Hey Phil, VCOADSR here at Cymru Beats again.
Yes, hi Nick.
But your setup's very different this time because last time it was bigger, it had a Cirklon, you've changed it up, right?
Yeah, that's right. Sort of partly practical reasons and also trying to make things a little bit more interesting for me as a performer. The Cirklon was fantastic at what I had before in sequencing things, but it was a bit prescriptive in what I was performing, so I could jam the sounds and the arrangement of those sequences, but I wasn't really able to improvise with them. So I went to go the opposite direction completely and sort of fail potentially, or massive fail or success, you know.
That's really interesting. So the Cirklon is really great for repeatable, structured kind of stuff, right?
I think for the Cirklon purists, they say you can use it for improvised, totally improvisation sort of styles, but I was using it as a pretty sort of standard step sequencer. And I could have been more brave maybe using that, but in a way there's a lot of menu driving and things like that. I want it to be exposed to me.
So what are you using now?
So the heart in terms of the sequencing is the circadian rhythms for all the rhythm side, plus this, it's actually like a Turing machine, but it's only for rhythms. It's a DIY module from over in the States, Detroit Underground. So that's pretty cool. But then in terms of the pitch side of sequencing, I've got the new Turing machine, and I've got this Penta by Roll Your Own. And those two things are the heart of the melody.
Really micro. I mean, how do you program, or do they work? Do you program them to do what you want, or do they just have modes that you?
Definitely the Penta being a step sequencer, I can dial in what I want. Obviously, the Turing machine is a bit of a law upon itself. But what I'm doing is I'm not just arbitrarily bringing the Turing in. I'm using the solo, for cueing. So I can sort of say, well, is that melody, that randomized melody, working within what I've already got? And if it sounds like it's plausible, then I'll start to bring that in. So it's not.
So using the mixer, it's almost like
like a DJ.
Like a DJ. Yeah,
exactly.
That's really interesting.
Exactly, I probably will be changing this mixer in the near future to a DJ mixer, not with the crossfade, but with faders, and just because of the style of music I'm making now, which is techno, to have those things like filters, sweeps, stuff like that are performance based, not EQ. Getting the right.
There are controls in place for that sort of thing.
So I'm definitely going that way. And in terms of, you mentioned the eventides.
Yeah, so before you had the eventides, the space
and the time factor, the delay one. So now I've stripped it down and I've emulated it with the herb verb and the new dual looping delay. So I'm not using them for crazy things, although I am actually clocking the reverse on and off in time with everything else. So that's going to bring some interesting.
Well, also the fact that you can clock it more straightforwardly, it means it locked in.
That's right, exactly. Because before I had the Cirklon, that was driving the modular, it's driving all my pedals. Now everything's just driven off. Which one is it actually? I'm failing now. Yeah, off the circadian rhythms. I've forgotten actually. Yeah. So everything's been driven from that, and so I don't have to worry about clocking. Which is actually going back sort of 5-6 years when I started getting into modular. The amount of time I wasted in trying to clock different things, computer to this to that with delay and it just drove me mad. So sick of it.
Imagine.
I know it has got better. I know there are a lot of better solutions now, but
well, it's what works for you. You can't change everything. I mean, the other thing because last time we spoke, which was here, I think you spoke to Ed in the meantime.
Yeah, that's right. Yes.
But when we were here last, you also were talking about the way that you had sort of multiple paths through the system, so you could move between movements, songs. I mean, are you still using the same approach?
Yeah, I am. So for instance, although I've got the Turing machine, I've also got this step sequencer, and what I'm doing is I'm mixing, so I can bring either one of them in and out on the mix into, say, an oscillator. So if I've got this coming around, I'm thinking, okay, I might want to have a bit of a change, or I might want to bring some variation. I can actually just start mixing in some other CV, and it's all been quantized through the U-scale.
Okay, right.
Yeah, so the signal path for instance, this oscillator is that we've got the Turing machine and the Penta going into a mixer, The output is then going into the disting in the quantized mode.
And there's expert sleepers.
Yeah, expert sleepers, and then that's going to the oscillator. And then on the other side, I've got Hertz Donut, which is purely being driven by the Turing machine. And what I probably will do over the summer, if a few modules that I want come out, then I will also do the same. So I'll be able to feed different CVs into a quantizer. So I've got flexibility.
So you're using the kind of traditional sense in the way that, in many ways, a modular patch is all set up to the routings, and then you dial in
What I want.
what you want.
Yeah, and it is I suppose if you wanted to look at it, it's like an extremely expensive Electribe is what I've made. And that's, funnily enough, that's what I started with when I started making electronic music in 2008.
So you think subconsciously you spent all this time just trying to emulate that feeling that you first had?
Yeah. And I'm actually quite intrigued if I got, because I sold it, which is annoying. If I got it back, I wonder if I could make something pretty decent. At the time, I didn't know anything about anything, So I think I've gone a long way around.
Well, it's interesting. A lot of Electribe users are very evangelical. I've used that word a few times today, actually.
Okay.
But they are. I mean, they really. If we post anything with the word Electribe in it, it has a high chance of getting high traffic. It's curious.
Oh, really? That's interesting.
Maybe I'll put Electribe in the headline for this as well.
Why not? VCOA tries to do Electribe via modular or something to that effect.
Yeah, I think you got it. you got the job.
Yeah, okay. No, so yeah, it's good. And now I can package this down into a couple of cases and a rucksack.
Right, because you were saying earlier the other one you had before was big, and you
big.
Pulled your shoulder.
Yeah, I didn't do myself proud on carrying some stuff one time, and it's not. And really, this mix is too large as well. But it's all. Every time I think I've got to the final setup, I change it. So when people say, "Oh, I've got it now, Phil," you go.
Well, that's part of the fun, isn't it?
It
I
is.
suppose. I mean, do you find that you enjoy designing, redesigning, and discovering the workflow?
Yeah. I find that probably as gratifying as making the final music, and now modules are pretty ubiquitous. But maybe 2 or 3 years ago, when they were less seen, an analogy I'd always use is that I used to love Lego. Absolutely, I was mad on Lego. And you build your toy, then you play with it, and this is identical in its sort of, the analogy works for me. I love thinking about every module on my set in this rig is in a certain place for a certain reason. It's not haphazard. I haven't put things arbitrarily. So I can get my hand in. So I can really.
I noticed there's less tip-top drums in here than there were last time. You had a whole bank of tip-tops.
Yeah, I did.
Sure.
So I used to have the 808 and 909 that I used to mix together, but I was just not getting the real low-end the power that I wanted, and I'm not even sure how I missed it. But the Joe Mox Mod Bass 09 it's brilliant.
Is that based on the X-Bass 09?
I think it is, but I believe that he redesigned it.
Right.
And it's great.
He is the doctor scientist of kick drums, isn't
right,
he? Really?
Yeah, I believe so. I mean, that thing is, on a good sound system, it's brutal. And I could just listen to that, really, and a bit of hi-hat. It's really good, really good. So, and actually and I know I'm going to say this wrong, the Basimilus iteratus.
I'd probably say that wrong as well.
Yeah.
I have no idea whether you said that wrong or not.
Iteratus or whatever, it doesn't matter. It's brilliant. It's a brilliant module, just for not only percussion, but even melodic stuff, drones. And I'm going to be probably going to replace the Hertz Donut with the Laquelic Iteratus, whatever.
Okay.
But another dual oscillator, but it's just gets really biting and cutting.
So I've got 2 more questions.
Okay.
One is, do you work on separate tunes, or are you tend to start in one place and end in another? Do you have a progressive set, or do you have a kind of, that's the end of this song, here's another one?
Oh no, it's constantly evolving and blending, but there may be occasions where I may switch.
Just change tempo?
Not really. Not at the moment.
What's your magic tempo?
1-3-2.
Okay. And one more question is, I spoke to Bana Hafar, who does the modular outside stuff, and she said what she does is switch round all her modules every once in a while, just so that she has to. It forces a different way of working. Have you ever considered that? It sounds like you. Probably
No, I think it's a good way of working, but it's not something that I would do, because although I'm using all these modules in an extremely standard way of subtractive synthesis. Really, I'm not using them in some wacky modulation routing, but the system itself is still very limited, but I still can get a lot out of it. So for me, understanding what this setup can do is as important as keep mixing it around. So
yeah, and also if you're performing, muscle memory is important, isn't it?
Yeah, I can't be thinking where is that going. I've got a map of what every knob does and where it's going, so I can then think, oh, I need to bring that in, or I need to do that. So yeah, if you have to constantly keep remembering what you're doing, it takes away from thinking of performance. So anyway,
looking forward to the show tonight anyway.
Yeah, thank you, Nick. Cheers.
Cheers.